How much data does TikTok actually collect on its users? Researchers claim to have developed a new worm that can affect integrated AI systems. Some Microsoft Copilot users are claiming the paid version is less impressive than the free one. These stories and a lot more on the No Foolin' edition of Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. Now, what data does TikTok actually collect on you? With the upcoming legislation in the US and all the controversy, it makes sense to check it out. But does anybody actually ever check how much is mentioned when they click on a license? I saw a story today that was on Fox Business, and I know, don't hate me, but the Fox part makes me double check their data. So I went back to the original site, and here's a simple list of the types of data that TikTok collects from users, explained in plain language. Account information, content you create, messages, purchase information, contacts, identity verification, usage data, device information, location data, image, audio data, cookies and tracking data, data from partners. And from what I could read, it's really hard for a non-lawyer to tell what, if any, restrictions they have on sharing the data with others. A site that calls itself Compromised has reported that researchers have created a new type of computer worm called Morris 2 that can infiltrate and spread through systems powered by advanced AI language models like ChatGPT. The worm works by inserting specially crafted prompts or instructions that trick the AI into replicating the malicious code and propagating it to other connected AI systems. In a study, the researchers demonstrated Morris 2's ability to spread spam emails and exfiltrate personal data by targeting AI-powered email assistants. The worm was effective against multiple state-of-the-art AI models under different access conditions using text and image inputs. This research highlights emerging security risks as companies increasingly integrate AI into products and services, forming what this report called generative AI ecosystems. You have to unpack that sentence. The integration of AI is, according to these researchers, creating vulnerable ecosystems. This follows on a story in the Hacker News earlier this month that we covered that stated that over 100 models in the popular AI repository Hugging Face had malicious code found in them. One of the challenges of AI has been its lack of transparency in terms of how it generates its answers. We may have a second challenge: how well it can hide being compromised. Some Microsoft customers are complaining that the company's new AI assistant called Copilot doesn't perform as well as OpenAI's ChatGPT chatbot. And there's some degree of confusion between the public version of Copilot, which has general internet access and is currently free to use, and the private version, which is integrated at least to some degree with Microsoft's business software and can access private data through SharePoint sites and other data stores. But the reports are that the public version, which is essentially a version of ChatGPT, performs better and faster than the private integrated version that users actually have to pay for. Microsoft says the issue is that customers aren't using Copilot properly or providing effective prompts to get the most out of the AI tool. A Microsoft staffer reportedly told the news site Business Insider, "It's a Copilot, not an autopilot. You have to work with it." To improve the experience, Microsoft is now paying a partner to produce instructional videos teaching customers how to write better prompts to properly engage with Copilot AI. It underscores the challenges companies are facing in rolling out advanced AI capabilities to enterprise customers and meeting the heightened expectations following the success of consumer AI like ChatGPT. And as businesses integrate generative AI effectively, training employees on prompting and using these new tools will likely be a key to extracting their full value. This is going to be an important test as the tech industry transitions from a publicly available chatbots to trying to sell more sophisticated corporate AI offerings. With so many different offerings trying to sell a paid version of their product at an extra $20 to $30 per user, not only is the cost per user going to go up, but with it, there are going to be some high expectations. And here's a few stories from over the weekend that I'm calling AI Bites. Not enough for a huge story at this point, but they're things we might want to be aware of. Anecdote Travel, a trip planning company, launched an easy-to-use website plainly named Am I Flying on a Boeing? The website is simple. You can't book trips directly, but you can punch in a flight number and a date and find out what type of aircraft the flight is using. Listeners may remember we did an earlier story on the travel site Kayak, and they have a similar feature. Axios reported that you'll soon not be required to log in to the popular site ChatGPT. This isn't going to happen all at once. It'll be rolled out gradually, apparently. Anonymous users can still ask that their data not be used in training the model, but they'll have to check the provided box in the software. And there's a new version of Elon Musk's AI chat software Grok 1.5, now has the same context length of 128,000 tokens that brings it into the same league as its major competitors, ChatGPT 4.5, Google's Gemini Pro, but it's not as large as Claude 2.1's 200,000 tokens. The context window is the limit of the size of the information that the model can deal with at any one time. This new version of Grok is reported to have notable improvements in coding and mathematical tasks as well. And Databricks, a for-profit analytic company that has an open-source AI version which it makes freely available, has announced that its new DBRX open-source model that it got when it acquired Mosaic AI for $1.3 billion is now outsmarting GPT 3.5 and has what's called a mixture of experts, or MOE architecture. And this is where multiple expert networks or learners divide up problems. This architecture has been used to increase accuracy and reduce resource usage and increase speed in other models, which it presumably brings to this free open source model. And that's our show for today. It took a lot longer to do today's podcast. First, the long weekend was slow for news, so I had to hunt around a lot more. But I also had to be much more careful about the stories, April 1 and all that. I had to double check the news that Gmail is 20 years old on April 1st, and I read a story about how that announcement was thought to be an April Fool's joke. Didn't remember that. I was around for it, but I didn't remember it. But I almost got fooled by a story from Blog Toronto that said Meta, formerly Facebook, and the Canadian government had reached an agreement, and the Canadian government was now canceling Canada's C-18 and had a full apology from Meta about the damage their ban on news for Canadian users had done. And the government and Meta both admitted they'd been wrong in their approach. That should have been the first clue. What a world we live in when you read something where two opposing parties apologize, admit they're wrong, try to see the issue from another's point of view, and agree to work together on a realistic solution. And those are the clues that it's really an April Fool's joke. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a terrific Tuesday. No fooling.